our president will start a war with Iran because he has absolutely no ability to negotiate. He's weak and he's ineffective. So the only way he figures that he's going to get reelected, and as sure as you're sitting there, is to start a war with Iran. Now, I'm more militant and more militaristic than the president. I believe in strength. But to start a war in order to get elected, and I believe that's going to happen, would be an outrage. This is a great time to negotiate. Unfortunately, we have a president that doesn't know the first thing about negotiation. We have a real problem in the White House. So I believe that he will attack Iran sometime prior to the election because he thinks that's the only way he can get elected. Isn't it pathetic?
We work to counter Iran's efforts to develop nuclear weapons and missile technology.
Iran should not have a nuclear weapon. Period.
I have stated that Iran will never be allowed to obtain a nuclear weapon.
We will not allow Iran to acquire a nuclear weapon.
Iran's key nuclear enrichment facilities have been completely and totally obliterated.
Meanwhile, Democrat puppet Ro Khanna wants to come out and say that we had better negotiations with Iran under President Obama. Bro, he paid them millions of dollars in cash, which is what they use to build up their missile systems and nuclear program. How is that better? Better for who?
There's no dispute that it worked, and we didn't have to a whole bunch of people or shut down the Strait of Hormuz. Now,
well, there was some dispute that it didn't work.
Well,
our present president believed that it didn't work, which is why he pulled out of it.
It's not clear that he didn't believe that it didn't work. He just said it didn't work.
Worst deal of all time.
Yeah, because I did it, which is fine. That seems to be a pattern. But there was no serious independent folks who would say that it didn't work.
Other presidents should have done this. 47 years they've been toying with these stupid people. In many cases, stupid people. This should have been done by Obama. He went the other way. He was giving them cash. He sent plane loads of Boeing 757, took the seats out and put green cash, 1.7 billion in the plane. Every bank in Virginia, D.C., and Maryland was stripped of their cash. They took out all the cash from the banks. They put it into a plane, a Boeing 757 packed with cash, and they flew it to Iran, and they let these guys just, I don't know what the hell they did with it, but they took it and then gave them billions and billions of dollars and bribed them basically to be friends. And after giving them tens of billions of dollars, they screwed Obama, okay? That's not the way we play. No, we do it the old-fashioned way.
Breaking news. Recently, I posted a video of Iran wants to talk to Barack Obama instead of Donald Trump. So there are so many issues about these guys. Why they think this one is better, why the other one thinks I'm better than the other person. So remember, Barack Obama had a deal with Iran, and nothing happened. We never saw any war. But because of Trump, that's why we've been seeing wars. So now, Iran is calling Obama a goat, and they want to negotiate with Obama instead of the current president.
Donald Trump just got absolutely embarrassed by Iran, and President Obama is the reason. Now, Donald Trump just sent a big, beautiful letter to Iran, asking them to come to the table to discuss a nuclear deal, something President Obama was successful at doing. And Iran immediately responded to Donald Trump, saying this, quote, "The insistence on the part of some bully states on negotiations is not to resolve issues, but to dominate and impose their own expectations. The Islamic Republic of Iran will definitely not accept their demands," unquote. And this is Donald Trump's fault. He set this up. Iran is saying, look, we don't trust you. You're not here to make a deal. Look what Donald Trump did with the USMCA and where he's at now. Look at how he's dealing with Ukraine. Iran looks at Donald Trump and says, nah, you're all talk. But President Obama was able to get Iran to the table and strike a deal. A deal, by the way, that Donald Trump undone, hoping that he could get his own deal in place. And he has absolutely failed. And I promise you, the ketchup is hitting the wall.
President Trump has also threatened to destroy Iran's civilian infrastructure and, quote, wipe out Iran's civilization if the Iranian government didn't make a deal. Do you think that kind of rhetoric is appropriate, even as a negotiating tactic?
No, it's not, because, again, it's part of sending the missed signal. Are you here to liberate us or further hurt us? What hurts our nation is its, of course, civilian infrastructure. What helps us is when you hit the regime and its infrastructure. I'm trying to separate the two from each other. And yes, nobody likes to see victims. But then again, the regime has been using people. Do you think the U.S. and Israel has done enough to separate those two? Well, that's what I'm trying to address. Look, when the regime adapts in tactics to use people as human shields, as they would hide many aspects of their anti-riot forces, or whatever you want to call it, in public areas, including schools and hospitals, a little bit a la what Hamas has been doing in Gaza. Sometimes it's very, very difficult to have precision targeting without having every now and then these instances. It's very sad, but it's war, it's conflict. The sooner we put an end to this regime, the sooner we can in fact preserve more innocent lives from being destroyed in my country.
Not Iran talking about they want to negotiate with the GOAT. Talk with the GOAT. And they ain't talking about Trumpity Trump, Trumpity Trump.
Breaking news. Trump just posted on his Truth Social that Iran announced the Strait of Iran is fully open and ready for full passage. Thank you. The Strait of Iran. Is he conceding that the strait belongs to Iran? Because I thought it was called the Strait of Hormuz. That's weird. And MAGA is celebrating and screaming that Trump won. I'm confused here, guys. What did we win? Wasn't the Strait of Hormuz open 40 days ago before we started bombing Iran? What is the win? In another post, Trump said the U.S. will get all the nuclear dust, the uranium, that there isn't any money exchanging hands, referring to the money the U.S. has locked up that belongs to Iran. And in the same post, he said the deal does not include Lebanon and that the U.S. will handle Hezbollah separately. But he says Israel will no longer bombing Lebanon and says that Israel is prohibited from doing so by the USA. But soon after he said that, Israel did a drone strike in Lebanon on a car and a motorcycle, killing two or three people, I believe. But I guess Netanyahu didn't get that memo. Or he's just letting Trump and the world know who's really the boss. Because there's definitely will not be any consequences for this blatant violation of the ceasefire. Then Trump said this deal with Iran has nothing to do with Lebanon. But CNN is reporting that Trump was forced to order Israel to halt its bombing to get Iran to the table to even negotiate. Then on top of all that, Trump posted yesterday that he hoped Hezbollah would act nicely and well during the ceasefire, never calling out Israel for anything. They can do no wrong. It's crazy. It's also being reported in the ceasefire talks that Iran would agree to not produce a nuclear weapon in exchange for $20 billion. So here's what's being negotiated, and it looks like it's going through. It's a 3-page peace framework, sanctions removed, and that $20 billion they'll receive. Iran agrees to give up its stockpile of enriched uranium, portion goes to a third country, and the remainder gets blended down inside Iran under IAEA monitoring. They can have a peaceful nuclear program and full oversight, and the U.S. wants nuclear facilities above ground. Besides a couple minor things, this is the exact deal that Obama had in place for Iran that Trump tore up when he came into office. So we started a war, spent nearly $100 billion on it, destroyed all our bases in the Middle East, and now we're in the same place we were in 2017. As MAGA always says, this is 5D chess, and this is checkmate.
President.
So for all the Democrats and liberals that support Iran and hate Israel, I just want to show y'all something that Barack Obama said when he was president. Maybe if y'all hear it from him, maybe it'll help make sense to y'all.
Because a nuclear Iran is a threat to our national security, and it's a threat to Israel's national security. We cannot afford to have a nuclear arms race in the most volatile region of the world. Iran's a state sponsor of terrorism, and for them to be able to provide nuclear technology to non-state actors, that's unacceptable. And they have said that they want to see Israel wiped off the map. So the offers Iran a choice. They can take the diplomatic route and end their nuclear program, or they will have to face a united world and a United States president, me, who said we're not going to take any options off the table.
I don't know, bro. It just sounds an awful lot like what Donald Trump's saying right now, if you ask me. Which comes off to me to make it seem as if y'all actually understand what we're saying and y'all are actually for what we're saying. Y'all just are against it because Donald Trump's the one initiating it now. Because Donald Trump's leading it and a Democrat like Barack Obama isn't leading it now. Y'all have an issue with it. That's just what it seemed like to me. I don't know.
Is this dinner too tacky for the Donald? What could he possibly be doing instead? Is he at home eating a Trump steak? Tweeting out insults to Angela Merkel? What's he doing?
Has anybody tried that wine? How good can that wine be? I want to know what that wine tastes like. I mean, come on.
It gets worse. Just this week, Michelle Bachmann actually predicted that I would bring about the biblical end of days. Now that's a legacy. Trump knows a thing or two about running waterfront properties into the ground.
I'm so in love.
I want to make another point too. I think this is important and nobody's talking about it. Barack Obama, and you know my feelings about Barack Obama. Yeah.
Yes. Strong feelings.
I have to say that the JCPOA, the Joint Comprehensive Plan of Action, the Iran nuclear deal is what it was known as. The JCPOA was a good idea.
Give it to people who aren't familiar with it. Break it down in simple terms. And Israelis hated him for that.
They hated him for negotiating this deal with the Iranians, but it was a good deal and it worked. So the idea was that the Iranians said, we don't have a nuclear program. The United States said, we're not sure if we can believe you. We think you might have a nuclear program or you might not, but we want to inspect it. So that's where the two sides entered into the negotiations. The final deal, to make a long story short, was that the Iranians agreed to essentially the same deal that the United Nations had in Iraq during Saddam Hussein, where you would get spot inspections by UN weapons inspectors, no announcement, they just show up and you've got to let them in.
Like a random drug test.
Like a random drug test. This is a random nuclear inspection.
Yep.
The areas that could be used to enrich uranium were closed and sealed with lead seals that the United Nations controlled. And then security cameras were installed like 360 so that at the UN or the IAEA or Langley or Jerusalem or wherever, they could watch the cameras 24 hours a day and make sure nobody's messing with the seals. Okay? So it was working. And Donald Trump, in the first couple of weeks of his first term, just tore it up and threw it away and said it made us weak. He's going to negotiate a better deal. And the Iranians are like, we just now negotiated this like a year ago with Obama.
Damn, did y'all see that interview that Obama just gave to the New Yorker? In which he calls out a lot of things. Please go read it. But the thing that blew my mind was when he said, excuse me, that Netanyahu had been pressuring him repeatedly to start a war with Iran. And then he said, of course, later on, he got what he wanted. You know, right now, basically. I mean, I literally heard about that and I was like, oh, damn, he said it.
Great stuff. I love to see it.
Does Trump have a point?
in fairness? This is a real risk of a nuclear Iran that we need to address.
This gets to something larger, which is we're living in a time and a period that is so binary, where it's impossible, it seems, for people to hold multiple ideas in their heads at the same time. And so, yes, from, I think, perspective of the United States and many countries in the region and around the world, a nuclear Iran is not a good thing, which is why administration after administration has looked at how do we deal with this. But the conclusions that previous administrations drew were different than the ones that President Trump drew. During the Obama administration, when we got the JCPOA, the Iran nuclear deal, of course, we looked at military options. But we concluded then that if we exercised a military option, one, there could be all of these second and third order consequences, including the Strait of Hormuz, including attacks on our forces and our people in the region, including attacks on our partners in the region. And to what gain? We assessed back then, it's been publicly reported, that in all likelihood, if we went at the program, we might gain a couple of years at best, that Iran would rebuild, and it would rebuild deeper underground, it would be harder to get at, and we'd be right back where we started. On the other hand, doing the hard work of diplomacy, getting a deal, bought us, in the case of the JCPOA, 10, 15, 20 years, depending on the different constraints. And at that point, had the Iranians decided, okay, the deal is now sunsetted, the different provisions have now expired, we're going to go for a nuclear program, a nuclear weapon even. Well, what typically happens is you either renegotiate or extend, and if they don't want to do that, well, the military option is still there, except with a lot more information, because during this time, you've had inspectors looking all throughout Iran at what they're up to, where they're up to it, and so we would have been fine. The only thing that the Iranians really got was money. Not insignificant, except most of the money was theirs. They paid for the deal. It was their frozen assets that we had bottled up from the sale of oil that we released to them. Lifting sanctions on investment in Iran proved to be not much of anything, because even without the sanctions, very few people wanted to invest in Iran because it was such an uncertain place to do business. So that was the basic assessment. When President Trump and the Israelis went at the nuclear program last June, my concern back then was, okay, this is going to be exactly what we were concerned with. It's at best a temporary fix, and it could actually ultimately make the problem worse, because they will rebuild. They'll build it underground in ways we can't get at so easily. And maybe we'll buy a year, maybe we'll buy 2 years. But if you can get a diplomatic deal, you might buy a lot longer. Yes, you have to pay for it. That's the challenge. But I think that's still a better bargain than this military deal with all of these unintended consequences that many of us gamed out, but apparently were not factored in this time.
سلام. ما هر وقت که لازم باشه می جنگیم، هر وقت تشخیص بدیم از سلاح دیپلماسی استفاده می کنیم برای تحقق منافع ملت ایران. برای ما رضایت دیگران مهم نیست. روندهای دیپلماتیک قواعد خاص خودش رو داره.
Iran has issued what seems to be a direct response to President Trump's address to the nation last night, and it is typically fiery. A spokesman for Iran's military command said in a statement addressing the US and Israel this morning, quote, "This war will continue until you experience humiliation, permanent regret, and inevitable surrender." Now, that's obviously in contrast to the time frame that President Trump suggested last night, saying the war could continue for another 2 or 3 weeks. Needless to say, the two sides often give starkly different narratives in this conflict. As you know, Trump has repeatedly claimed that Iran's leaders are eager to do a deal to end the war, while Iran has denied that it is negotiating at all.
Since Donald Trump launched strikes in Iran, there is perhaps no one on his mind more than former President Barack Obama. To date, President Trump has mentioned his predecessor at least 17 times during at least 6 public events since the February 28th strikes in Iran. In nearly every mention, the president has repeated some variation of how Obama's 2015 arms deal with Iran, officially called the Joint Comprehensive Plan of Action, was the worst deal in combating Iran's nuclear threat.
And Obama, who was another terrible president, by the way, he was Barack Hussein Obama, terrible president. He was a divider, great divider. I call him the Great Divider. If I didn't terminate Obama's horrible deal that he made, the Iran nuclear deal, you would have had a nuclear war 4 years ago. You would have had nuclear holocaust.
The president also called out Obama on non-Iran related topics, such as accusing him of not wanting a bust of Winston Churchill in the Oval Office and complaining that, unlike him, President Obama's nominees for the U.S. Supreme Court never ruled against his administration. During a White House event celebrating St. Patrick's Day, Trump again mentioned Obama, noting that a White House assistant physician who worked for both the Trump and Obama administration said that Trump was the healthiest president he had ever worked for. It's worth noting that the physician, Colonel James Jones, appeared to have been pressured by Trump, according to a New York Magazine feature. Democratic strategist Amisha Cross told the Griot, quote, Obama has not had a single achievement domestically or internationally that Donald Trump has not taken a swipe at. Cross added, he's been in a consistent competitive race with Obama and Obama's legacy since he got elected. The only thing that brought Donald Trump in the political sphere was this push to ensure that the legacy of the first black president was going to be diminished. Despite Trump's incessant digs at President Obama's Iran deal, national security and foreign policy experts argue that the multinational agreement kept the Middle East region and subsequently the U.S. and its allies safe. Victor Legrune, a U.S. Army veteran who worked as an intelligence analyst and a former Biden administration official, told the Griot it was pretty incredible. By contrast, he described President Trump's current military operation in Iran as, quote, super chaotic. He said President Donald Trump has to reconcile why he went away from Obama's agreement that was working. What do you make of President Trump's constant mention of President Obama? Let us know in the comments, and for more updates, head over to thegrio.com.
So this is the latest breaking news. Donald Trump is not happy with Iran's response, saying that they want to bring back Obama, that they only want to talk to Obama, the GOAT, someone on the varsity team. So after Donald Trump heard this, this is what he looked like. He was not happy. And I have Obama's response. It's so good. I got a photo of him when he was learned of this, what Iran wants. Here we go. I'll get it. Now, this is Obama's response after he learned that Iran wants to deal with only him, the GOAT, the go-to guy, and that he's on the varsity team and not Pee-wee football. So here we go. I think it's hysterical. Look at his response. It is so good. Way to go, Obama. And we will see you hopefully for a third term. And yes, it'll be really interesting to see what happens with Obama and possibly Iran negotiations. Awesome. There you go. He's smiling.
Well, Barack Obama sure has been quiet lately. What am I talking about? Well, I'll tell you, former President Barack Obama has never really been one to slow walk his criticisms of President Trump, yet here we are, 3 whole entire days after President Donald Trump decided to ruin the Ayatollah's day, and Barack Obama is radio silent. I wonder why that is. It couldn't possibly be because before President Barack Obama left office, he decided it'd be a good idea to go ahead and send $1.7 billion worth of cash over to the Islamic Republic of Iran. And wouldn't you know it, somehow, some way, they grew their nuclear program and funded proxy terrorist groups. Isn't that crazy? Now, technically, we did owe the country of Iran, not the Islamic Republic of Iran, $400 million for some sort of arms deal that happened before 1979. But because Barack Obama is just so generous, he went ahead and paid that principal amount of $400 million and went ahead and included the interest on that money just for good measure. Only one was able to predict what a terrorist nation would do if they got their hands on $1.6 billion in cash, because they had sanctions placed on them, so they couldn't exactly participate in the global financial structure we have going on. So, can't wait to hear what Barack Obama has to say. I certainly hope he keeps his comments on for this one.
Iran's trolling of Trump is just so fucking funny. They're so goddamn good at it with their AI and their Lego videos, and now they've said they'll only negotiate with Obama because he's the GOAT.
do you think it's allowed to negotiate with a former president instead of the current president? Because in my thinking, the former president, remember, they don't deal with, he doesn't deal with Donald Trump. So how are they going to negotiate with him? Is he going to go there as a delegate who's been sent by Trump, or he will just go and negotiate things? Because I am not a Trump supporter, but the way I see things, it will never happen. And those guys are calling Barack Obama a god. That is the best president they have never seen. He was a problem solver. So,
Iran just tweeted out that they will only negotiate with Obama. Yeah. They said, sorry, we're holding out for the GOAT. Yeah, we're not talking to you. We were going to wait for President Obama, the greatest president of all time. We will only negotiate with Obama. Oh my, Trump's head is going to explode. I'm sorry. Trump, there will be ketchup, french fries, and cheeseburgers hitting every wall of the White House.
Apparently, we're now offering Iran what is the equivalent to Obama's original nuclear deal. Yeah, that's where we're at. You know, the deal that Donald Trump tore up because it had Obama's name on it, and that hurts his feelings. And he came out and said it was a very stupid deal, a terrible deal, the worst deal ever. You know, that deal. Well, apparently it's not stupid anymore. But hey, this is what happens when you elect people that are more concerned with one-upping the opposition than actually governing.
Okay, here's a new smooth Lego video called You Started It, Not Obama. Let's check it out.
47 years. That's the number he keeps repeating. Like if you say something long enough, people stop asking, who lit the match this time? Yeah,
spitting.
Trump stood online screaming Obama gave away cash. Suitcases on planes, America getting played fast. Caught him weak, caught him stupid, caught him history's fool. Like Rage Yourself could rewrite what actually happened in truth. But let's slow it down for the people watching at home. That money wasn't some random gift thrown from a throne.
Now the threats against Donald Trump's life as well. The Iranian national security leader, this guy Larijani, who I've been covering before, Ali Larijani, he goes, we're not going to let Donald Trump off the hook. We won't rest until we retaliate in kind, is the words that Larijani used. He must pay the price.
Like Donald Trump. I would be interested to know how many people have died because he tore up that nuclear deal just because it had Obama's name on it, and that's a scary Muslim sounding name. Ooh. It might have even had Hussein on it. Ooh. And for the MAGA morons that haven't figured it out yet, this is the United States of America, not the Alabama football team. You know what I'm saying? Yeah, get that through your head. Yeah, because when you elect really stupid people, people die. That's what happens.
Iran is signalling that any diplomatic path out of its conflict with the United States would need to go well beyond the nuclear deal negotiated under Barack Obama. President Donald Trump has announced a sudden 2-week ceasefire, stepping back from threats of expanded US strikes. The pause is tied to Iran's agreement to temporarily reopen the Strait of Hormuz, a move aimed at creating space for negotiations to resolve the conflict. Trump has described Iran's starting point as workable. It calls for the US to allow uranium enrichment, lift all sanctions, and end international resolutions against Iran without mentioning nuclear limits or inspections. Unlike today's opening offer, Obama's 2015 nuclear pact, the one Trump slammed, lifted sanctions only if Iran accepted tough nuclear limits and let international inspectors in. Iran's new plan also includes much broader demands, such as a US military withdrawal from the region and an end to hostilities involving Iran-aligned groups. Iran now seems to be hoping that Trump, who denounced the 2015 accord as too generous, would eventually sign off on a deal far more favourable to Tehran. Whether Iran's ambitious gambit succeeds is, for now, uncertain.
Come on, y'all. I thought this was fake. Iran said they only going to negotiate with the GOAT, the greatest of all time. They only going to negotiate with Obama. What the hell? Come on, y'all. It's crazy, right?
Just a reminder if you missed it, Iran said they will only negotiate with the GOAT, Barack Obama.
You know, instead of waiting for a good day to happen, you know, waiting around through ups.
Obama gave Iran $1.5 billion of their money back and got an ironclad non-nuclear deal from Iran. Trump tore it up. And thus far, Iran still has this nuclear material. They still have the Strait closed, and Trump has spent $100 billion or more and has had torn up several military bases worth billions of dollars themselves. Trump is an economic disaster, and he's profiting from the war. And Trump supporters are living on lies.
Already Black Rebel back with another one. Yeah, fam. Iran is not dealing with Trump. They don't want to deal with Trump. They say they must rather deal with Obama. They want Obama back. They do the deal. They must rather deal with Obama because you got to realize they had a great thing going on with Obama. Had a great thing going on with him. But it's just like whenever he went over to China over there. Did y'all see how President Xi was looking at him? He over there. You know, all that stuff like that. That man. Like, brother. And then didn't come out with no deal. They ain't helping him on no blockade. And then warn him about Taiwan. Don't get into that. And then let him know that another power was on the rise, which is them. You know, in so many words, that another power was on the rise, which is them, and it's about to take over, you know, this, which is true. BRICS nation. God said in the Bible, he was going to join the kings of the East together. He was going to join the kings, he was going to join them kings together. And, you know, they was going to do something. So look what's happening. This BRICS nation, baby. BRICS nation. All those kings are joined together. And guess who lost everybody? America. Yeah. See, they got a BRICS nation. Ain't no NATO no more. Man, they ripping that up. NATO got theyself now. They ain't got the main. You know what? Matter of fact, it may be a little bit of NATO. It ain't no America no more. Put it like that. Because they standing all by themselves. And President Xi got his chest out on him like that. So like I say, man, boy, then y'all make the wrong decisions. Did y'all hear that, man? Oh, he hollering about it, Joe Biden and Obama. Well, I heard when you ride a person like that, when you don't roll them for so long, like, he rides them like, brother, wow, he been riding Obama for a long time. And he riding Joe Biden. Boy, I know Joe Biden tired, like, boy, get off of me. You heard me. He riding him. Just riding him. Everything come up. Joe Biden, Obama. The other countries laughing at him. Because they like, well, instead of talking about Joe Biden, Obama, what you gonna do? Can't never tell them. Alrighty, y'all. Pay attention, man, because it's about to get crazy. Keep the faith and stay blessed.
Hey, Trump, you are fired. You are familiar with this sentence. Thank you for your attention to this matter. The central headquarters of Khatam al-Anbiya.
Thank you for watching Great Minds Blacks.